everybody, welcome to week 6 of our God's Not Dead series and these Talk It Over segments. And the topic this week was living proof. And I'm here with Tracy Watson. Tracy, one of our pastors on staff in the Hammersmith congregation. It was great to have you preaching this week.
It's great to be there.
Yeah, there we go. So, living proof. Trace, out of your message, out of all the things that you shared, what's one thing that you would want people to take away? Or maybe a couple of things, but what's the main point that you'd like them to have to take away?
That we're living proof. That if you've had an encounter with Jesus, your story and that transformation that has taken place as a result of a relationship with Jesus is living proof to the people around you. It can make a difference. It can show others that God is real, that Jesus is alive. And for the lost, for someone who hasn't experienced Jesus, it's their opportunity to actually see Him at work in your life, and to actually investigate and say, hey, I want to see that transformation in my life. I want it to be evidence that God is real. Yeah.
So that's great. So, I think especially because some of this series, some of those things have got quite academic, haven't they, in terms of understanding those evidences. But it's quite even refreshing to maybe think that there's an evidence that I don't even need to understand all of that stuff, but there's something that's happened in me.
Definitely, because I think that someone's testimony or someone's story can speak so much louder or can resonate so much more in someone's life by seeing actual evidence in the people that they come in contact with, that there's a change that has taken place here, and when finding out the change was a relationship or was encountering Jesus, for them necessarily reading in the book or having some scientific reason that might not have been the thing that brought them into relationship or is that proof. But actually seeing somebody that they care about or someone that they're constantly in contact with change drastically and go through transformation is that proof.
Yeah. Great. So, what about that transformation story? Because we've all heard those stories, and we get people in, even as guest speakers, to tell their story. And there's always this amazing story of I died and came back to life, or I was a drug dealer, or I was on death row, but then I met Jesus and everything changed for me. What if you don't have a story like that? What would you say to somebody who doesn't think they've got much of a story? Is this really powerful for anybody?
I would definitely say they still have a story. I know many people who haven't had a hectic past and haven't gone through this massive transformation. Like you said, drinking, myself and, all the transformations that I've gone through. But they've experienced God's peace for the first time, and there's a joy that has welled up as a result, and come to find His grace and His mercy in a way that they've never known it. And maybe they were a good person before, but now, even so much more, God has transformed their lives, and they're experiencing that peace and that joy. That's something that they can share with other people, and we all need more peace, and we all need more joy.
Definitely.
So I would say they still have a story to tell. Yeah.
Okay, so thinking about that story, one of your points is that everybody has a story to tell, and that is proof in itself. We've probably all sat in those situations where somebody's telling a story, but it hasn't necessarily gone that well, and you're kind of trying to get the point, and it's dragged on a bit. What were some tips that you would give somebody for how to share their story well in a way that points them to Jesus and is compelling?
I love using a story in the Bible where Jesus came upon a man who was born blind, and He healed the man. And the man says 2 points, and he says, all I know is that once I was blind, but now I can see. And for me, a great tool or a great way to share your testimony is to have those 2 points. Once I was this way, but then I encountered Jesus, and now I am this way. And I think that if we can, within 2 to 3 minutes, be able to share our story of how we were before, and then we encounter Jesus, and this is how we are afterwards, I think that's a great way to share your testimony. it differs depending on who you're talking to, but if you can do those two things, once I was, but now I am, easy.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks, Tracy. Now, in your groups this week, you might be sitting there talking about it. Maybe you haven't got that story yet. You haven't put your trust in Jesus yet, but we want to encourage you that you could have that story. You could encounter that transformation for yourself. And all of us, we need to encounter Jesus in some way that changes us, because we all need that. And in your groups this week, we want to give you a chance also to practice telling your story. I mean, what is your story? You find so often that we don't think our story is that important, but when we tell it to somebody, we find that there is something that's life-changing, and there's something that's inspiring about that. So have a great time with that in your groups, and we wish you all the best.